Authenticity offered on record is true.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, the state has provided full disclosure of discovery.
Her actions were controlled, methodical, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful. This was not reckless driving. This was murder.
Courtrooms often feel like a gateway to hell, but not for this teenager, who walked in smiling as though she had everything under control. But justice is served one way or the other, and for her, that reason came crashing down in the early morning hours of July 31st, 2022. It began with a chilling piece of surveillance footage from Strongsville, Ohio. At just 17 years old, Shirilla was seen barreling down a road at 100 miles per hour in her 2018 Toyota Camry before slamming head first into a brick building. At first glance, it looked like a tragic accident, the kind that devastates families and shakes communities. But as investigators dug deeper, the truth proved darker than anyone imagined.
Here, cut that out. Sarge, we're good to try to get her out? Oh, dude, I don't know what's going on.
Shirilla was not just another high school student. She had been in a turbulent, years-long relationship with 20-year-old Dominic Russo. The pair lived together in one of Russo's family homes. Their romance often described as unstable, filled with arguments, threats, and an undertone of volatility. Friends later testified that Shirilla wanted out, but the method she chose to end things became her ultimate downfall.
Like before, you lied. You lied and said you would never lock me out of the house again. That is why we got back together last time we broke up. But I forgot. You can never
broke up with me
your
earlier.
word because you are a little fucking weak bitch.
You broke
So
up with me earlier. You broke up with me earlier.
This is your last chance to open the door, or you are not coming out of this house all night because I will not leave.
You literally broke up with me earlier. Like what is the point you're trying to, like, you broke up with me, like, earlier. Like, what
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. You said we're not together. You really said that shit. Like, you really broke up with me earlier. Like, what are you trying to make? Like, why did I just let you in the house? If you break up with me, you're threatening to break my shit. Like, you're threatening to key my car. You're threatening to break the doors.
I will key your car
like,
if you do not let me in the house.
you're gonna key my car if I don't let
If you don't let me in the house, yes.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I know, so just let me in the house.
On the night of July 30th, Shirilla, Russo, and their friend Davion Flanagan attended a graduation party at the home of Shirilla's friend. They didn't stay long, moving instead to another friend's house, where they hung out into the early hours. According to testimony, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But just before dawn, around 5:30 a.m., Shirilla, Russo, and Flanagan left in her Camry. What began as a routine drive quickly spiraled into disaster. Within minutes, Shirilla pressed harder on the accelerator, propelling the car toward its fatal end. The crash was so violent that Russo and Flanagan were killed instantly, and Shirilla was found unconscious. For 45 minutes, the wreck went unnoticed, until a passerby finally called 911, far too late to save the two young men, even if they still had little chance. At first, the public saw Shirilla as a survivor of a tragic accident. Once she regained consciousness, she even posted tributes to Russo, calling him the last person to deserve this, and sharing pictures of the couple as if in mourning. To outsiders, she looked like a grieving girlfriend. But investigators saw something different. Days turned into months, but the shadow of that incident never left Strongsville or Mackenzie Shirilla. By late 2022, after investigators had combed through every fragment of evidence, she was arrested and charged with 2 counts of aggravated murder. At first, she sat in jail on a $500,000 bond, but the deeper the case went, the worse it looked for her.
Hi, Mackenzie. Step out for me. I'm Detective Jesus. I'm the one who's been investigating the crash. You're under arrest for aggravated murder ×2, okay? Nobody's gonna ask you any questions. Nobody's gonna bother you. Can I have your key, please?
Could you please be careful taking this one?
It was almost as if she sensed the authorities would be calling on her soon. Yet instead of worrying about that looming reality, her attention was on something far smaller, her bracelet. Whether she's crying because of the jewelries or not,
So it doesn't break the bracelet, please.
You got it. You got it.
Do you want my glass?
No.
Thank you.
You got it.
the trial began in 2023, and prosecutors wasted no time framing the narrative. They argued that this was not a tragic accident, but a calculated act, that Shirilla had chosen to weaponize her car, intentionally slamming it into the brick building at over 100 miles per hour in order to kill Dominic Russo and escape their toxic relationship. For months, investigators reconstructed the final moments before impact. Shirilla herself claimed memory loss, insisting she could not recall what happened as her Camry veered toward the wall. But what investigators uncovered told a far sharper story, one that Mackenzie had unknowingly told on her own. Inside the hospital, in the hours after the crash, doctors recorded her words, words that would come back to haunt her in court. Trauma surgeon Dr. Esther Singh, who treated her that morning, testified about what Shirilla told staff when she thought no one outside that room would ever hear. The jury listened as Singh read Shirilla's statement directly from the medical report. Then came the forensic evidence, damning in its precision.
Of Ohio Revised Code Section 2903.02a, Count 1 being the murder of Dominic Russo, Count 2 being the murder of Davion Flanagan. Each of these counts are statutory sentences. Each is 15 years to life with parole eligibility after the base term is served, and with parole strictly within the discretion and jurisdiction of the Ohio Parole Board.
Expert Mark Sargent presented findings from the car's event data recorder. The results were unmistakable. In the seconds before impact, the accelerator pedal was fully depressed, while the brakes were never touched. Even Shirilla's fuzzy slipper had been wedged between the pedal and the floor mat, proving her foot had been pinned to the gas. There were theories floating that maybe the slipper caused accidental acceleration, but Sargent dismissed them. The data, he testified, showed deliberate action. To him, the car had not malfunctioned, nor had the pedal been trapped in error. There was no indication of mechanical or electrical failure, he concluded. This was driver input.
Intent was obvious upon seeing that video that there was only one goal, and the computer demonstrated that there was no attempt to slow down or stop, that it was full speed into a building. And said tragically it cost 2 people their lives.
The recorder also revealed a hard steering event to the right, followed by the car briefly shifting between neutral and drive just seconds before the crash. Whether it was Shirilla trying to wrestle back control or something else entirely, no one could say for sure. What they did know was that the car struck the building at full throttle. If the mechanics didn't convince the court, the lifestyle evidence began to close the gap. Toxicology tests confirmed Shirilla was under the influence of marijuana, with psilocybin mushrooms also in her possession. Detective Zaki Hazu uncovered more than 100 clips from her social media accounts, many showing her speeding, swerving, or recording herself while driving impaired. Prosecutors used those videos to argue this wasn't just one reckless act. It was a pattern, a personality steeped in dangerous thrill-seeking. And then there were the words she chose to share with the world. Social media posts and TikToks painted a far different picture of the girl her family described as innocent. Far from a grieving victim of tragedy, Shirilla had joked, posed, and projected an image at odds with her claims of devastation.
Part of the evidence in this case and introduced in trial was evidence from the defendant's cell phone. There were search warrants executed on her various social media accounts, her school records, her medical records, things of this nature. And I think that who she actually was is directly contradictory to what is painted by the letter submitted on behalf of her.
Prosecutors even revealed that shortly after the crash, Shirilla and her mother had been contacting a Los Angeles modeling agency, as though the wreck that killed 2 people was just a detour on her path to glamour.
Shortly after the crash, Strongsville police were notified that they had received concerning emails from the community that the defendant and her mother were seeking employment with the Los Angeles modeling agency. Kenzie Shirilla said to Vitali, "Thank you for the comment. I would love to work with you guys. I've been emailing you guys a lot. Such a great opportunity. Thank you."
Is there a date?
Piece by piece, the courtroom watched Mackenzie's facade crumble. She had entered trial as a 17-year-old, painted as a naive girl who made a terrible mistake. But by the time prosecutors finished, she was no longer seen as a victim of memory loss or misfortune. She was portrayed as someone who pressed the accelerator with purpose, leaving behind shattered lives and a trail of evidence that spoke louder than any tears ever could. On the courtroom screen, Mackenzie's carefully curated online persona began to unravel. One TikTok video showed her posing with the caption, "I'm the one you die for." In another, she bragged, "I'm not even cool. I'm just one of those girls who can do a lot of drugs and not die." These weren't old posts from a reckless middle school phase. Court records made it clear these words were written during the same turbulent period when her relationship with Dominic Russo was breaking apart, when arguments and threats were becoming routine. Prosecutors argued that the posts revealed something chilling: Mackenzie's comfort with themes of death, violence, and control. They weren't jokes or passing teenage bravado, but glimpses into a mindset where destruction and dominance had become part of her self-image. For Dominic's family, sitting in the courtroom and watching those videos, it was shattering. By August 2023, her fate rested not with a jury, but with a judge, after she opted for a bench trial. It was Judge Nancy Margaret Russo who would decide her future. After weeks of testimony, mechanical evidence, witness statements, and Mackenzie's own contradictory words, she was convicted on all 12 counts, including murder, aggravated vehicular homicide, felonious assault, and drug possession. The contradictions in Mackenzie's story were glaring. Hours after the crash, in the quiet of a hospital room, she admitted to medical staff that it was her fault for killing her boyfriend. But by the time her trial began, that admission had vanished. Her new defense was total memory loss. It wasn't her fault, she insisted. It was all a tragic accident she could not recall. When given the chance to address the court before sentencing, her courage gave way to fear. She isn't that same girl confident in her tricks. The contrast between Mackenzie's hospital confession and her courtroom denial was impossible to ignore. In the raw moments after the crash, she had admitted responsibility. But in the place where truth mattered most, she tried to erase it. Perhaps the most revealing testimony of all, however, came not from Mackenzie, but from her mother. When given the chance to speak, Natalie Shirilla continued to call the crash an accident, even after days of evidence had proven otherwise.
I just want to say to the families that I'm broken, sad, and lost, and my heart hurts for everyone, okay? Davion was her new friend, and Dom was the love of her life, and he was part of our family, okay? I'm just so sorry that this happened, and we're heartbroken, okay? And then, Your Honor, this was a terrible, tragic nightmare accident to have happened that she has no memory of, and she will never emotionally or physically recover from it. She almost died too, and we're asking that you please not run the sentence as consecutive. He was family, and we all loved each other. That morning of the accident, she called. I got a phone call that there was a car accident. Okay, so we went to the hospital, and I didn't even know who was in the car. The names had not been confirmed yet, and I'm gonna cry because I missed Dom so much. We loved him so much.
Prosecutors had laid out evidence that removed all doubt. Yet Mackenzie's mother still framed it as a mistake. To legal observers, this moment explained more than any piece of data could. It revealed how Mackenzie may have learned to sidestep accountability, how denial and deflection had been modeled for her. Even in the face of overwhelming proof, her family refused to acknowledge intent, choosing instead to rewrite the truth as they saw fit. Judge Russo, however, was unmoved. In her ruling, she referred to Mackenzie as hell on wheels, condemning the deliberate choices that had killed 2 young men. The sentence was 2 concurrent 15-year-to-life terms, with credit for time already served and the possibility of parole after 15 years. Mackenzie's driver's license was permanently revoked, ending her ability to ever legally drive again.
Waiving any statement on counts 11 and 12?
As to those 2 counts, yes.
All right. The defendant is sentenced in counts 11 and 12, each of which is a felony of the 5th degree, to 7 months in prison on each count to be served concurrent to each other with credit for time served. Fines and costs are waived. As to the driver's license suspension for counts 9 and 10, the aggravated vehicular homicides, her driver's license is suspended for life.
She tried to change the narrative with confidence, but the judge wasn't having any of that. Do you agree 100% with the judgment? Let's know in the comment.